What if the biggest star in women's basketball suddenly decided the league she was supposed to save wasn't worth staying in? What if one player, barely a rookie, became the center of a billion-dollar tug-of-war that could rewrite the future of the entire sport? Caitlyn Clark didn't just enter the WNBA, she detonated inside it. Overnight, she became the most talked-about athlete in the country, the main character in every highlight reel, and the reason attendance numbers exploded in cities that hadn't seen a sellout in years. But behind the cheers, something else was happening. Something the league wasn't prepared for. Because the same system that wanted to celebrate her was also the system that undervalued her, underpaid her, and underestimated the magnitude of the storm she brought with her. And while the WNBA was scrambling to figure out how to contain that explosion, someone else was watching from a distance. Someone with deeper pockets, global ambitions, and zero interest in playing by the WNBA's rules. That someone is the rumored league being built outside the United States, backed by money so large it makes traditional sports contracts look like pocket change. And their first target is Caitlyn Clark. Not years from now. Not after she earns her stripes. They want her now, and they're reportedly ready to pay a number so massive it would make the history books. What's unfolding behind the scenes isn't just a contract negotiation. It's a clash between old American sports structures and a new global superpower ready to buy its way into the center of the game. And the question isn't whether Caitlyn Clark will be offered a deal that breaks the sport. The question is whether she'll take it. Caitlyn Clark didn't just enter the WNBA with hype. She arrived like a force of nature. From the moment she stepped on the court, everything changed. Arenas that were once half empty suddenly filled with fans wearing her jersey. Games that historically pulled modest ratings started competing with major network broadcasts. Every city she traveled to saw a spike in attendance, merchandise sales, and national coverage. She became the rare athlete who didn't just elevate a team, she elevated an entire league. But the real shock wasn't just her talent. It was the speed at which her presence exposed the gaps in the WNBA's infrastructure. Overnight, the league's long-standing issues were pushed under a spotlight so bright nobody could ignore them anymore. Travel problems, salary concerns, scheduling frustrations, and the growing tension between veteran players and rising stars all became part of the conversation. Clark didn't ask for any of this. She didn't come in with a villain arc or a superiority complex. She came in to hoop, but the world decided she was bigger than the game. And instead of protecting that spotlight, instead of supporting the star who single-handedly shifted the sport into a new era, parts of the league seemed annoyed by her success. Some treated her like a threat instead of an opportunity, and it created an environment where the league's most valuable asset was also its most targeted. The crazy part? She wasn't just lifting the league in theory, the numbers proved it. Her games consistently outperformed every expectation. Networks began fighting over broadcast rights. Social media clips of her deep threes hit millions of views within hours. Even people who had never watched women's basketball suddenly knew her name. In just a few months, Caitlyn Clark did what decades of marketing strategies couldn't. She made the WNBA part of mainstream conversation. But with massive attention comes massive pressure. And while Clark transformed the league's visibility, she also unintentionally exposed how unprepared the WNBA was for a superstar of her magnitude. That vulnerability is exactly what the rival league is watching and exploiting. For all the excitement Caitlyn Clark brought into the WNBA, her paycheck told a completely different story. While she became the face of a national movement, the league still valued her, on paper, at less than what many NBA benchwarmers make in a single week. Her rookie contract, barely over $70,000 a year, became a symbol of the larger problem. The WNBA simply doesn't have the financial structure to reward stars at the level they deserve. And this wasn't just about Clark. For years, players across the league have voiced their frustrations about pay disparities, limited sponsorship deals, and the absence of real long-term financial security. Clark's arrival didn't create these problems. It exposed how massive they already were. She generated millions in revenue the moment she stepped onto the court. Yet her salary didn't even come close to reflecting her impact. It was a mismatch so blatant that fans, analysts, and even former players couldn't help but call it out. What made the situation even more complicated was the comparison to other sports. International leagues, overseas tournaments, and privately funded ventures have been paying women's basketball stars far more than the WNBA ever could. Some players have historically made more money in a single overseas season than in multiple years in the United States. This isn't new, but for the first time, the world was paying attention. Caitlyn Clark wasn't just the next big thing. She became a bargaining chip, a leverage point, and a wake-up call. When fans saw her undeniable star power paired with a salary that barely scratched middle-class living, the imbalance became impossible to ignore. And for the WNBA, a league trying to negotiate long-term media deals and expand its footprint, that imbalance represented a major vulnerability. Because where there's underpayment, there's opportunity. And where a league struggles to compensate its brightest star, someone else, someone with far deeper pockets, is always willing to step in. That's exactly what the rumored rival league saw. And it's exactly why Caitlyn Clark became their #1 target. While the WNBA was caught in its own storm, something much bigger was forming overseas. Quietly, strategically, and with more money than any women's basketball league has ever dreamed of, a new global project began taking shape. Some call it a rival league. Others call it a takeover. But whatever name you give it, one thing is clear. The people behind it aren't playing small. According to reports, the league, often referred to in whispers as Project B, is backed by investors with pockets so deep they make traditional sports structures look outdated. Instead of trying to improve what already exists, they're aiming to build something entirely new. A new schedule, a new format, a new brand, and most importantly, a new financial model that blows the WNBA's salary system out of the water. Their first move? Target the biggest star in the sport, Caitlyn Clark. Not later. Not when she's a veteran. Immediately. The rumored numbers floating around are so massive that they sound fictional. 50 million, 75 million, even $100 million offers just to make her the face of the new league. That's not a salary. That's an empire builder. And when you compare that to a $76,000 rookie paycheck in the WNBA, it becomes clear why the story is spreading like wildfire. This new league isn't just offering money, it's offering power. It's offering travel upgrades, global exposure, a more flexible schedule, and the freedom for stars to actually benefit from the value they create. It's offering what the WNBA has struggled to deliver for decades. A system that truly matches the ambitions and talent of the athletes. The craziest part? They aren't building a league the traditional way. No local arenas with trailing attendance numbers. No small market limitations. No outdated salary caps. This project is reportedly structured like a global tour. Major cities, major audiences, and major payouts. A model that eliminates all the slow, grinding parts of a regular season and focuses entirely on high-intensity matchups, spectacle, and star-driven entertainment. And the moment they set their sights on Clark, everything shifted. The WNBA no longer found itself competing with a minor overseas league. It was suddenly staring down a financial giant with enough capital to reshape the sport overnight. If the WNBA underestimated Clark's influence, this rival league absolutely didn't. They knew that landing one superstar could flip the global basketball landscape. And they designed their entire launch strategy around that fact. If the rival league wants to make an immediate impact, they only need one move: secure the biggest name in women's basketball. And they know exactly who that is. Caitlyn Clark isn't just a rising star. She's the engine driving the entire sport forward. She's the reason arenas sell out, the reason analysts talk for hours, and the reason millions of casual fans suddenly care about women's hoops. So when the new league built its strategy, they built it around her. Not as one of many stars, but as the foundational pillar of the entire operation. Landing Clark wouldn't just boost their credibility, it would instantly shift global attention. It would force media networks to take them seriously. It would send sponsors scrambling to align with the new powerhouse. And most importantly, it would leave the WNBA with a hole so massive it couldn't pretend everything was fine. But even a powerhouse league knows that one superstar isn't enough. That's why the rumors don't stop at Clark. Sophie Cunningham's name has been floating in the mix as well. She's charismatic, marketable, and already has a built-in fan base that spans far beyond the court. Pairing Clark with a personality like Cunningham would give the new league something priceless: Chemistry, the kind you can't manufacture. Think about it from a marketing perspective. Clark brings the generational talent, the highlight plays, and the global popularity. Cunningham brings the fire, the personality, and the social presence that keeps fans invested even when games aren't happening. Together, they form a duo that fits perfectly into a league built on spectacle and star power. This isn't a coincidence. It's a strategy. The rival league is studying the weaknesses of the WNBA. They see the tension between rookies and veterans. They see the salary cap limitations. They see the fragmented fan base. And they're using all of it as leverage. By targeting Clark and pairing her with another high-energy star, they're building a roster that can dominate attention from day one. They aren't trying to outgrow the WNBA slowly. They're trying to leapfrog it instantly. Behind closed doors, agents know this. Brands know this. The WNBA knows this. And every day that goes by without a clear denial from Clark's camp only adds more fuel to the fire. Because deep down, everyone understands the same truth. If Clark moves, the entire basketball world moves with her. While the rival league is moving with precision and ambition, the WNBA finds itself standing on increasingly unstable ground. Not because the talent isn't there, and not because the league lacks potential, but because the timing couldn't be worse. The WNBA is currently in the middle of negotiating a massive new media rights deal, one they hoped would finally elevate salaries, improve travel conditions, and expand team resources across the board. And their entire pitch to networks is built around one undeniable factor: the Caitlyn Clark effect. Executives have been showcasing graphs, attendance reports, and viewership spikes that all trace back to Clark's arrival. They're telling networks, this is the future. This is the star who changes everything. Those numbers are real, and they matter. But they're also fragile, because they depend on Clark being in a WNBA jersey when the next contract cycle begins. If she leaves, even if she just announces intentions to explore other opportunities, that leverage evaporates instantly. Networks aren't interested in buying potential. They're interested in buying certainty. And right now, the only certainty is that Clark is the most valuable asset the league has ever had. The situation becomes even more delicate when you look at how veterans reacted to her arrival. Instead of embracing the new era, some players treated her presence as a threat. The overly physical plays, the resentment in interviews, the tension on social media, it all fed a narrative the WNBA couldn't control. Instead of appearing united, the league looked fractured. And fractured leagues are vulnerable. Then there's the issue of salaries. The WNBA can't simply raise the cap overnight. They can't match a multimillion-dollar offer from a global superpower. Their system is tied to revenue splits and long-term financial models that take years to adjust. Meanwhile, the rival league doesn't care about caps, gradual growth, or tradition. They care about impact. They care about making a statement right now. And that's the exact pressure point they're exploiting. For the WNBA, the threat isn't just losing Clark, it's losing momentum. The kind of momentum they've been building toward for decades. Every sold-out arena, every viral clip, every new fan tuning in for the first time. It all leads back to her. And when one person becomes the heartbeat of a league, any threat to that person becomes a threat to everything. The WNBA is facing an impossible dilemma. They need Clark more than Clark needs them. As the rumored rival league gains momentum, it brings more than just money into the conversation. It brings a global shift that challenges everything fans thought they knew about women's basketball. This isn't just a new league trying to exist alongside the WNBA. This is a movement backed by a level of financial force that can reshape competitive structures, media deals, and even cultural narratives. And whenever that kind of power enters a sport, the conversation stops being about basketball and starts being about influence. For years, women's leagues have fought for higher pay, better visibility, and respect that matches their skill. But financial limitations and slow-moving systems have always held things back. Now, for the first time, a group with unlimited capital is stepping forward and saying, "We'll pay you what you're worth." That single promise turns everything upside down. Of course, the moment those rumors surfaced, critics were ready. They pointed to political concerns, human rights issues, and the global trend of nations using sports to reshape their public image. These arguments aren't new. They appeared when famous golfers switched tours, when soccer stars headed overseas, and when entire leagues formed under private investment. People argued, debated, and accused. But if history teaches us anything, it's that outrage rarely stops momentum. Fans judge the product on the court. And if Caitlyn Clark is part of that product, fans will watch, no matter where the games are played. But the most interesting part of this global shift isn't the money or the investors. It's the fact that women's athletes are finally being positioned to make the kind of generational wealth that changes futures, not just careers. For decades, male athletes have enjoyed this luxury. Giant contracts, massive endorsements, global tours, and limitless opportunities. Women, no matter how talented, rarely received the same path. Now, suddenly, that path is wide open. And Clark stands at the center of it. Her decision, whether she stays loyal to tradition or steps into a new frontier, could define the future of women's sports for an entire generation. If she leaves, others will follow. If she stays, the pressure on the WNBA to evolve becomes unavoidable. Either way, the sport will never look the same again. Caitlyn Clark didn't ask to become the focal point of a global power shift, but here she is, caught between history and opportunity, between loyalty and legacy, between a league that needs her and a league that wants her. And while the world debates morality, economics, and competition, one truth rises above everything. Women's basketball is entering a new era, and Caitlyn Clark is the one holding the door open. We're standing right in the middle of a turning point that nobody expected to come this fast. Caitlyn Clark is only at the beginning of her professional career, yet the entire landscape of women's basketball is already shifting around her. She has become the type of figure that leagues try to build dynasties on. Someone who changes ticket sales, ratings, culture, and the direction of the sport itself. But the bigger the star, the bigger the decisions. And Clark's next move may be the one that defines the next decade of women's basketball. If she stays, the WNBA rides the momentum she created and pushes toward the future it has been chasing for years. It forces the league to evolve, to restructure, and to finally deliver on the value its players have always deserved. If she leaves, the rival league instantly becomes the new gravitational center of the sport. Sponsorships would follow her. Fans would follow her. International audiences would shift their attention overnight. The WNBA would be forced into the biggest rebuild of its existence. No matter what happens, the impact is unavoidable. Caitlyn Clark is rewriting the rules simply by existing in this moment. She represents the clash between tradition and innovation, between the old guard and the new reality. And she's a reminder that sometimes one athlete, just one, can make the entire world reconsider what's possible. As fans, we are witnessing history unfold in real time, and the decisions being made behind the scenes right now will be talked about for generations. Whether the future of women's basketball stays where it started or moves to a new global stage, one thing is certain: nothing will ever be the same again. The only question left is which headline we'll be reading when the dust settles. Before you click away, if you want more deep dives like this, breaking down the stories, the power shifts, and the moments shaping the future of sports, take a second to support the channel. Subscribe, like the video, and drop a comment about where you think Caitlyn Clark should go next. Your engagement helps this channel reach more people, pushes the algorithm to recommend these breakdowns, and gives me the power to keep delivering content that cuts through the noise. Thanks for watching. Now let me know your take.